Today I've got a new lens for you, but
this is this new lens I got. Look at this. This is a joke.
following my last video shot in Lanzarote about how to make your photos pop, I did promise I would do a full review on the lens that I used for the majority of that shoot. In today's video I'll review the new TTArtisan 100mm f2.8 lens for Leica. I'm going to give you the good, the bad and the pretty. Stay tuned until the end. 6 minutes of photos coming up. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. As a UK Leica portrait photographer, model photographer, I have lots of portrait samples coming up with this lens, but also for all of you that don't like portraits, I also have real world non-portrait photos too. The TTArtisan 100mm lens has been pretty much glued to my camera for the last 4 days, from sunrise to sunset and even after dark. Before we get into it, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons, links below to extra content. Okay, let's first look at the bad. So, considering the problems with this lens first, look at these images. All of these images are shot with the 100mm TTArtisan lens. Look at the corners. What is the problem with this lens? The problem is the image circle is not big enough to cover full frame, so you're going to get vignetting from the M mount version of this lens. Apparently it's not a problem on the M42 version, but as you can clearly see, it is a problem with the M mount. This is a long lens for like an M mount camera, and it does give you slight viewfinder blockage when focusing at close focus distances. It also has a very long focus throw if that's not your thing. When looking at image quality, this lens will flare quite easily when pointing towards the sun or any other light sources. You could say this is a creative effect, but at the same time it can be annoying and you will lose image detail. The build quality of this lens is pretty terrible. I couldn't focus it because the lens was slipping inside the lens barrel, so I had to squeeze the lens barrel to make it focus. I did that for 4 days just so I could use this lens. TTArtisan can make very good lenses such as the 28mm f2.8 and 50mm f2.8, but this lens isn't one of them. Okay, on to a more positive note. What are the good things about the TTArtisan 100mm f2.8? The good thing is it's a less modern clinical rendering lens. It renders less perfect, a bit like a cheap lens would, as you may expect if you bought, say, an old cheap lens on eBay. This lens works really well for my female portraits, and it gives a more filmic, imperfect, organic, painterly look, whatever you want to call it. It's just less digital because it's a bit rubbish. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but as I'm more of an artist and a architect that tries to make everything perfect, I quite like arty looking photos, and so for this reason it does work. The centre of this lens is usually sharp, wide open, but stop it down to say f4, f5.6 and the sharpness improves in the centre quite a lot. Considering the low price and seemingly rubbish quality of this lens, I just couldn't quite take it off the camera. It was pretty much stuck to my camera for a full 4 days, morning till night, and I was questioning myself, why am I using this lens when I've got other much better lenses? That being said, it is sharp in the centre for these sorts of headshots, and you can focus close enough to get a bit of separation in the model's face. One thing I loved about using a 100mm lens on the Leica SL is it gave me a really nice compression in my shots. This really worked well for outdoor portraits and on location, as you can see here, and it has created a really nice depth which I miss when shooting my usual 50mm or 35mm lenses. Here are some sample photos from day 3 in Lanzarote. Feel free to see the last video for day 1, day 2 and day 4. Again, I just love the compression for these outdoor portraits. Another benefit of this lens, it only costs $210 brand new compared to €1,000 if you buy the Meier Optics Trio plan. Okay, let's quickly cover the lens spec. So the TTArtisan 100mm f2.8 is a trio plan lens with 13 aperture blades, which gives you that famous soap bubble bokeh, the same as the Meier Optics lens, and it's 3 elements in 3 groups, which is a trio plan design. The TTArtisan lens is rangefinder coupled for like M mount cameras, and it will trigger the 90mm frame lines. It's got half stop aperture clicks and a minimum focus distance of 0.9 meters, which is really good for headshots. This lens weighs 378 grams, which is heavier than say a Voigtlander 90mm lens, and it's got a 49mm filter thread. Onto the pretty. Okay, the reason you'll probably buy this lens is for its soap bubble bokeh, the same as other trio plan lenses. And if you shoot the lens in the right conditions, it really does come to life, and you can see the unique rendering from a trio plan design. You do see a bit of bokeh in daylight, but me shooting in Lanzarote in the desert, it wasn't the best testing situation. So it wasn't until I shot this lens in the dark that I really saw this lens come to life. Here you can see the famous Bubble Bokeh from the 3 elements in 3 groups design. And there's me trying to do some night portraits to see what this lens can do in terms of bokeh. As with all lenses, the bokeh improves the closer you get to your subject. 0.9 meters is a bit too close for portraits to then have nice bokeh as well, but for non-portrait photos you can get really cool bokeh. Here's me focusing at 0.9 meters on the Mercedes, and here I think I focused even closer using a close focus adapter. So what is the verdict? This lens feels cheap and poorly made, but that's perhaps reflected in the low price. This is a very cheap lens for a Leica M mount camera. That being said, the artist in me, rather than the camera nerd that should be pixel peeping, really like this lens. As a former painter before getting into photography, I really appreciate lenses that give a nice feel and mood to the images. That being said, I think the vignetting in the corners would annoy me pretty quickly, and you would have to crop every image to try to remove that. If you love Leica build quality and Leica precision and high performance lenses, this lens is not for you. However, if you shoot female portraits the same as me and you're trying to get a more artistic representation of whatever you're photographing, I found this lens a lot of fun. In terms of alternatives, you can buy the original trio plan lens on eBay, which is often an exact amount. You can buy the My Optics lens, which is €1,000. Or if you don't need Bubble Bokeh, check out any of these Voigtlander or Leica 90mm lenses.